and welcome to the March 5th, 2007 Lowell Planning Board hearing. Tonight we have two public hearings that are scheduled. The first public hearing is a site plan at 99 Rosemount Street. The Lowell Planning Board will review an application relative to a repetitive petition application by Teresa Bilodeau for the ability to subdivide the property located at 99 Rosemount Street into 3 parcels and construct 2 new single-family homes in the floodplain overlay district. On March 17, 2006, the Lowell Zoning Board of Appeals took an unfavorable action on a previous proposal at this site to construct a single-family home. In order for the Zoning Board of Appeals to consider the merits of this new application, the Planning Board must consent that the new application contains specific and material changes from the first application. The Planning Board will take this vote at the conclusion of the public hearing. May we hear the case for the applicant, please?
Good evening. My name is Patrick Flaherty. I'm an engineer for the applicant. The family couldn't make it here tonight. We have to get 4 votes out of 4 for this application. And since there's not a full board here, I'd like to postpone things till we have a full board. Would that be acceptable?
I will ask the board members what they request to do. Usually we don't have any problem with that when it comes down to trying to get the 4 out of the 4.
All right.
But let me check to see if anybody else wants to speak in regards to this matter before we entertain that motion to continue, okay?
Thank you very much.
All right. Is there anybody else here who's here for this project? Yeah. Okay.
Right now,
Excuse me, sir, if you could step up. I just want to know if you're here in regards to this. Are you here in regards to this hearing?
yes.
Okay. Basically, what the applicant is doing is requesting that we move the matter to another date. What happens is, for repetitive petition, they need a favorable reply of 4 of the 5 members.
So you're just going to move it to another date?
So that's what he's requesting.
Yeah.
When someone makes that request, I like to see who else is here in the audience in regards to that. So I'd like to make sure that everybody is aware what the request is. Okay? So what he's asking is that he can put on to another date, and we can let you know what that date is. And then basically when they come in, and then what we would do is we'd make a vote one way or another. If we voted that there is substantial material changes, then the matter would go back to the Zoning Board of Appeals for their final review. If we vote there is not substantial material changes, then the matter does not go back to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and it's over with right here. Okay, so this is a procedural matter. It's a 2-step. It has to go before the Zoning Board of Appeals first. They refer it back to us. We hold the public hearing, and then from there, if we find there's enough change, we move it back to Zoning Board. If we find there's not enough change, then the matter dies here. So what we usually ask is the questions of, show us the old plan, show us the new plan, what has changed substantially material from the old plan to the new plan, and then the board members will discuss it, listen to the public, who's ever in favor or who's ever against, and then we make a decision whether there's enough change to bring it back to the Zoning Board of Appeals for them to have a new hearing at a future date. So the process, I know, is a little back and forth between Zoning Board of Appeals, back here, then back over there if need be, okay? Any of the board members have any questions on continuing the matter to another date when we have the 5th board member? Any questions or concerns with that? No?
Mr. Chairman, the only concern I have is the one that you already know about, and that is that I won't be present at the next meeting of March 19th.
Okay.
Which would leave you with another meeting with only 4 members.
Okay.
So we may want to look at pushing this to the April 2nd meeting.
Mr. Flaherty, what one of the board members, Mr. Genvin, is saying, he won't be available for our next meeting, which our next meeting would be March 19th. Yeah. So what we're suggesting to doing is, if there's, is maybe putting on the following meeting, which would be April 2nd. I don't know if that prevents a problem for you.
No, I think the family would prefer that, to have a full board and have a good chance, a better chance.
Okay. Yeah. Does anybody have any, anybody want to make a motion that we continue this matter to the April 2nd date? Is that an agreement with all parties?
So I'll move that we continue this hearing till the April 2nd
Okay, there's been a
Meeting.
motion on the floor that we continue the matter till April 2nd. Anybody want to second that motion?
I'll second that motion, Mr.
Motion been
Chairman.
made and second. All in favor?
I'm going to abstain, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, you abstain, okay. And the chair votes yes. So we have 3 votes in favor, 1 absent, and 1 abstention. So the matter will be continued until April 2nd, 2007, and that will be in this room at 7 o'clock for the public hearing. So anybody who's concerned about that matter will be here for April 2nd. Since we haven't opened the meeting up, we will start the public hearing on that night. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
You're
Chairman.
welcome. Thank you, sir. The next matter we have on the agenda is a zoning amendment, which is 150, 200, and 250 Weston Avenue. The Lowell Planning Board may review an application relevant to a proposed zoning amendment to extend the existing artist overlay district to include the address mentioned above on Weston Ave in Lowell. The area is presently located light industrial and will remain as the underlying zoning district. At this point in time, may we hear the case for the applicant, please?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, James Flood, 81 Bridge Street, Lowell, Mass., representing the petitioner. Like the previous speaker, I would ask that this matter be also continued. I'd submitted a letter earlier to the board. I'd asked till the 19th, but now I understand that everyone's entitled to some time off, but I guess April 2nd would have to do on that
Okay.
one, too.
Let me just see if anybody else here in the audience is here in regards to this matter. Nobody else here? Okay. So we're considering, the consideration before the board at this point in time would be to continue the zoning amendment of Weston Ave to the April 2nd, 07 planning board date. Any members have any questions or concerns or comments regards to that? No? Anybody want to make a motion to continue?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion to continue this matter to April 2nd to bring it before a full board.
Motion is made. And anyone
Second.
second? Motion, was that second?
Yes.
Motion made in second, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes yes, motion carries 5-0 in favor to continue.
Just while I'm here, just for
Sure.
a point of information, since Mr. Jenner is not going to be here the 19th, the other matter that is scheduled for the 19th, will we come, or will we automatically continue that tonight to the April 2nd?
Have the note, that's the one on Middlesex Street, correct?
Right.
Have the notices gone out yet?
They went out Friday. A whole bunch of them. They went out Friday, yeah.
I'm thinking if there's any, obviously you could notify your client, I'm thinking if there's any other way that we could notify the neighbors to prevent them from not having to come down that day.
I don't think there's well, there might be a spokesperson that has been here in the past that you might be able to contact, but
Yeah, I know most of the time when this matter's been on the agenda, we've had the majority of people who spoke on this in the past have been
Yes.
the same neighbors usually in
Yes.
the same vicinity who live close
two or
by.
three people, yes.
you
So
have
it's
a
too
suggestion,
bad. I
George?
mean, they
You-
went out Friday.
The only suggestion, well, go ahead,
There-
George. I have one suggestion, but,
There are a few possibilities. You sent them out as a registered, certified
Registered, yeah.
letter. I mean, there are a few possibilities. I think it still, from a legal perspective, may make sense to be present on the 19th and ask for the continuation until the following date. If you want to keep the neighbors from regularly coming out, I mean, we could send just a regular mail notice to all of them, informing them that it is going to be continued to that date. You know, I'm being with the situation the way it is at this point, I don't mind if we could do that regular mail just from the city.
I can show up. I don't have a problem showing up
yeah.
and doing
The
that.
only, I understand that, and I think that most likely, what we've done in the past is when anybody's requested the full board, we've always been pretty good about continuing to give you that request. I just think to let the neighbors know so they don't have to come down and then we put over another date. The only thing I would suggest, if you could cross-reference your list with the Division of Planning and Development, and then we can send out first class, so whoever got the registered notice would also get a regular first-class mail.
They have a copy.
Oh, they gave you the list?
They have a copy of the
They're
abutters list.
required to give us a copy of the list before they.
They have a
send it out.
copy of it.
Okay, so they could just put in, the matter was taken up at the planning board on tonight's evening due to the fact that we'll not have a full board on that night.
Well, I think it can state that because I think the the order from the land court said there should be a full board, so.
Right.
It's
I
not
did
a
read the
situation-
order from the court. It did say you have to have all
Yeah.
board members present.
Right,
Right.
so.
So I think, in fairness, if we could notify the other,
Let him
the
do
neighbors.
it. It took us long enough to do it with all the certified on
Sure,
Friday.
but I mean, if we did the first-class mail, and then I think the word
Yeah.
would get out.
I'll show up, though,
Sure.
and make the request.
Okay.
Yeah, because the legal ads are going to go in the paper saying the 19th, and because the certified letters have that date, I think it's important that somebody
Yeah, I would be, I'll,
open, make a motion to open and continue at that date until April 2nd. But then, in addition to that, just to save the hassle of having too many people come down and have to come down
Yeah, the
again,
notification.
we will send a notice out just to say that on that date, it's just going to be continued to the 2nd, and that if people want to come up and speak on the
Okay.
issue, they should be there on the 2nd.
all right, thank you.
And I think also by that, if any of the people do get it, if they have any discussion with the other neighbors, sometimes the word of mouth could pass it too. If they have any questions, obviously they can call Division of Planning and Development, we'll let them know the new date.
Yeah, it said that in the notice anyways,
Okay.
to contact them.
Attorney Flood, while you're here, the court order also said that the issue should be taken up by the end of March. I'm
Yeah.
assuming it's not an issue with
No, I don't
either
have a-
party if it's done April 2nd.
There's not, I don't have a problem with that. That's
Okay.
why I've agreed, I told that to Mr. Claremont, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
Okay.
And I think because of the fact that Mr. General is not going to be available, I don't think the court will have a problem. It's only a two-day.
It's 2
two-day
days,
matter.
and it's,
Yeah.
we're making the good faith effort to make
Yeah.
sure it gets before all 5 people.
Yeah, I don't have a
I
problem.
just, as long as we're all comfortable with that, I'm sure the court will be too.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So at this point in time, I think we'd have to take a formal motion to continue. What's it, 1881?
Yeah, we'll have to wait till that comes.
Okay, taking that one, okay.
We'll
But
make the motion.
so basically, we're just gonna make a motion that we send out correspondences that the meeting's on for that night, and that the request has been made to continue. Do that. Okay. Right, okay. Anybody want to put that in the form of a motion that we just
I'll
send out?
make that as a
Okay.
motion, Mr. Chairman,
you.
that we notify the abutters by regular mail that the meeting will be continued to April 2nd to try and call off as many that we can reach, and then the night of the scheduled meeting, we'll explain to the ones that we haven't been able to notify of the reason that we have to continue to April 2nd is to get it before the full board.
And just in case if anybody's watching, that's regards to the Middlesex Street project, which is Bradford Industries, which is the matter that's been before us before and has been referred to the court, and the court has ordered the matter sent back to the planning board for further discussion before full board members. And that's up, I forget the exact address, I think it's 1881 or 1891.1, I believe it is, something of that address. But I know it's, people know that it's right at the bottom of Dingwell Street, and it is Bradford Industries. Okay, thank you. There's a motion to that, we send out that notification. All board members in favor of that notification? Okay, the chair votes yes, so we will make notification that the meeting will be changed to April 2nd. Councilor will be here on that night to present the request to be continued. Thank you. Moving along on the new business, we have a pre-application session. The following individual has requested the planning board to provide a preliminary review of their proposed project at the address listed below. These are not public hearings. Each project will require a public hearing noted below. The project address is 121 Hale Street. The applicant is National Development. The project is an extension of an industrial manufacturing building. The zoning is the high-rise commercial, and this requires a site plan. Can the applicant just please state their name for the record, please?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Brian Clancy from National Development, 2310 Washington Street in Newton. As you know, we were before you for the Lowe's project a while back, and as part of our efforts with regard to that project, we're going to move GES, formerly LTC, to another location in Lowell, and that location would be 121 Hale Street. That will require us to modify the building by approximately 4,900 square feet, and we wanted to bring the matter before you tonight. My attorney, George Elides, had a pressing matter in Florida, so that would be his vacation. So he's not here tonight, so I'm on my own. I'm with Ken Staff here from VHB. He's provided you with some plans. We can do this informally at your desk, or you can set up the easel.
If you could set it up over there so the camera could see him, if you would, and we go from
Okay.
there. The only thing I'll say is, without Attorney Elides, we know the meeting will move a little swifter and be a little quicker.
Yes. Just as you know, I didn't
You
get
can
a
let Mr.
word
Lycus
in
know the chair
edgewise
said
before.
that.
Need the other glasses for that one. Binoculars.
You're probably best just looking at the site plans there. This, we kind of threw this together as a preliminary plan. For the record, my name is Ken Stafford with VHB, the site civil engineer for this project. And as Brian mentioned, this expansion is necessitated by the relocation of the GES facility from 790 Chelmsford Street to 121 Hale Street. And the changes that we're looking to make are pretty straightforward, pretty simple. As we expand the building, and the expansion is actually located, I guess you'd call it the rear of the building, or to the right side of the building, where there's the existing loading area.
Can you just hold the mic up a little higher?
Oh, sorry.
I don't know if it's picking up. There you go. Yeah.
Here we go, okay. The expansion area is to the right side, or it's almost the rear of the building, where the loading facilities are today. And it's, like Brian said, it's about a 5,000 square foot expansion, 57 by 86 feet, plus or minus. And this will house some of the functions of the former LTC, the GES facility, that they need some additional clear space and whatnot for the facility. In addition, GES was looking for some additional parking on this site, not just to meet the zoning, which is, we need to provide more parking on the site just to meet the zoning, but to service their employees as well. So what we look to do is expand this existing parking field on the south side of the, or west side of the building, to provide additional parking. And one of the improvements, upgrades that we're looking here is to really, improve the accessibility, the accessible parking, access to the building for accessible spaces for handicapped people. So that's one of the improvements that we're making out on the site as well. The other is we're kind of consolidating some of the parking out here in the rear. We tried to make a little bit more efficient turnaround for trucks accessing the facility, and in doing so, we reconfigured the parking area such that we're going to have we're able to create some additional open space, and we're also able to reduce some of the setbacks that currently violate the zoning. So we're able to pull the parking back away from the property line to provide minimum 5-foot setbacks. So it's a pretty straightforward expansion of the parking field, additional parking here, and then along Hale Street to get the parking that we need to meet zoning and to meet the needs of the tenant. It's really just a redevelopment of what's there today. There's no significant grading, no significant utilities. It'll be resurfacing parking lots, restriping, and replanting. So very straightforward redevelopment of this site.
I would just add to that because of the use in high-rise commercial, we will have to come before you for a site plan review in accordance with a special permit from ZBA. So we'll be before you for your recommendation to ZBA, and then we'll go to ZBA for the special permit itself. Yeah, I know it's a minor addition to the building, but unfortunately that's what the bylaw requires us to do.
Mr. Chairman, if I may. Based on what you're saying as far as the increasing the parking and the setbacks, do you know if you'll be looking for any variances or any waivers with this, or is everything going to be met?
As far as zoning goes,
Yes.
we're not looking for any variances. Everything, the setbacks, the parking count, we should all meet the zoning.
Okay.
I think if there's anything that we're looking for as far as waivers, it's maybe the plan package itself. It's such a small
what you're
improvement.
submitting, yeah.
We'll just consolidate some of the pages so that we don't have to, have a huge document for such a small improvement.
Mr. Chairman, how tall, is this expansion going to be the same height as the existing building, or is it going to be higher?
It's actually slightly higher than the existing building, and like we said, that's to accommodate some of the functions that are in the existing GES facility at 790. It's a storage racks of some sort.
I see. And as far as changes to the existing building that you're showing on this drawing, obviously the proposed expansion is a change. And is this parking lot to the right side of that diagram, is that a new lot there?
There's an existing parking lot today. They park it a little bit differently, a
Okay.
little bit less efficiently. And like I said, we're able to park this more efficiently, have a better turnaround for the trucks, and create some additional green space. So we're pulling back pavement.
I see.
Yeah, that's
on this.
fully paved now.
Yeah.
I see. So the only increase in parking that you're going to add is just by making the space that's there more efficient?
Correct, on this side. And then on the west side, we do expand slightly here on this edge, and then push out to the southern end of the site,
I see.
and then along
Yeah,
Hale Street. So this is more of an expansion where this is a consolidation.
If we weren't expanding the building, we probably could stripe the lots that are out there today to reach approximately the same parking, but because of the configuration of the addition on the back of the building, it's requiring us just to move around some of those spaces. So net parking, I don't think is a huge increase over what it is today.
Yeah, I think it's somewhere around 142, 141, something like that today, and we're looking to expand it out to
150?
63 to accommodate that.
Okay. And the company that's moving in, that you're moving from the other site, are they going to occupy this entire facility, or is
That's correct.
and so it's empty now?
The building is 55,000 square feet. It's currently leased by Celestica Corporation, which takes
right.
about 45,000 square feet. The other tenant is about 10,000 feet of warehouse for Matthews Bread Company. But GES will need the entire facility plus the addition. So, yeah, they will occupy the whole thing. It'll be roughly 60,000 feet and 150 employees plus or minus skilled manufacturing jobs.
Okay. Thank you.
Joe, any questions or concerns?
Nothing major. The access and egress to the site, that's not changing, right? That's as is existing right now, is that correct, to the two parking areas?
It's existing. On the west side, it stays in exactly the same spot. On the east side, we shift it slightly to provide better access to the loading and pull it off the property line.
All right. And are you going to be conducting renovations in the building that's there now, exterior, or?
Yeah, I'll speak to that. Yeah, we will be making some modifications and improvements to the outside of the building to kind of update the image. It's kind of an unattractive golden yellow color right now. It will receive a new coat of paint and some updating to the facade to make it a little bit more updated in keeping with LTEC's high-tech image. So it's certainly going to look better than what's there now. There's a chain link fence that's kind of rusty that's around the property now that's going to be removed. GES does not need that for security purposes. So I think the image of the property is going to be much improved from what it is today.
Well, it sounds like an improvement, and I see that you've got, your landscaping in the parking area of about 9% when you're only required to have 5%, so I think that's a benefit as well. The tenants that are there now, do you happen to know, are they being relocated, or what's happening with them?
Celestica was one of those companies that acquired this facility by acquisition, and they spent nearly $1 million, I think, in the building, fitting it up for a very similar use to what LTEC or GES is going to be doing. And so they never really took full occupancy of the facility. So they have a lease obligation that's been ongoing, but they have not been in occupancy for 2 or 3 years. But Matthews Bread, they subleased a piece of the building to Matthews Bread, or the existing landlord maybe has a direct deal with them.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I just have a couple of comments. Happy to see one that you say you're picking up more green space. You're gonna be getting more parking, and I know you indicated that you're gonna have a better turnaround for the trucks there on the right-hand side of your plan, which obviously is always welcome to have the more parking, more green space, and anything that makes it a little easier getting in at Hale Street, because, you know, you have the Boardman connector emptying out right there, and things can be tight with the trucks coming in there, and anything that can make that traffic flow work a little easier, I think it'd be a lot easier on the whole neighborhood there, so I'm glad to see that, you know. Like you say, picking up the parking is important, and the green space and the truck turnaround, so I think those parts of the plans are very positive.
Yeah, GES is not a heavy trucking kind of use, but they do use the loading areas, you know, periodically to receive and send out materials.
So it won't be, so what you're saying, it won't be having much heavy truck loading to the site?
I don't think that, no, I don't think it's like, you know, 50
Not
trucks
like
a day
daily
or anything
routine,
like that. Yeah, it's,
so many times per day or whatever, okay.
right, it's relatively light in the scheme of what they produce.
And do you know, out of curiosity, are they big trucks or small trucks, or they, if you know?
I
And if you
think
don't know-
generally they kind of receive panel trucks, but occasionally they have a larger tractor trailer
Mm-hmm.
truck that may come in periodically. Ken, wasn't that? They wanted the ability to receive that larger truck,
Right,
but they
that was
don't
my
get it very
understanding.
often.
That the majority of the deliveries are the smaller trucks, but we still have to have the capacity to handle the larger tractor-trailer trucks. So that's what precipitated the need
Right,
for
so the
this.
turning movements will accommodate those trucks even if they
I mean,
receive them
obviously, you want
infrequently.
it to make the turning radius for the big trucks, but, you know, then obviously makes it a lot easier for the little trucks, and especially if you don't have the big trucks that there as often, because it doesn't conflict upon the traffic use in the area, but at least, obviously, whatever makes it easy to turn around there, there's less congestion getting in and out of your site, obviously.
Right, it should make it easy for the littler, smaller trucks
Yeah,
to maneuver.
Especially if they're passing each other on the, you know, on that way, instead of
Right.
like the big ones.
Right.
I have no further comments. Anybody else on the board? Well, good luck with your project, and hopefully we see you back here in the future on your site plan.
Yeah, we'll be back in shortly, I
Okay.
believe, so, thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Good luck. Have a good evening. Moving along, we have old business. On the old business, we have a site plan, a special permit, 136 Hildreth Street. The planning will discuss the situation with the project at 136 Hildreth Street. Basically, we received a letter from the applicant to the law department, and I don't believe we got a copy of it in the package. I know, George, you said you thought we had a copy, but we don't have a copy of that?
I guess, since none of you received it, I'm assuming it wasn't placed in the package.
Okay.
I have a copy. It was sent February 8th to the planning board regarding the special permit decision from the attorney for the original applicant.
Okay. Okay, we can take a look at that matter. We do have it on for old business. Any request at this time?
Mr. Chairman, I just think maybe we ought to take a couple of minutes to review the letter quickly amongst ourselves, and then we can deal with it.
Okay. Should you,
I have a single copy. I'll pass it through to you. It basically references one of the conditions of the approval and asks some questions regarding the planning board's intentions on that to be clarified.
Thank you.
All board members had a chance to review the letter. At this point in time, what's the request of the board members?
Mr. Chairman, the letter from Perkins and Ansell dated February 8th, 2007 appears to refer to a matter that's in ongoing litigation that we dealt with at a prior meeting. And I believe that the attorney is just asking for clarification and opinion from counsel regarding the board's decision. And I'd recommend that we move that the solicitor's office provide clarification and an opinion as regards to the contents of this letter.
Okay, there's a motion made. Anybody want to second that motion?
I'll second the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, motion made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Chair votes yes. Motion carries that we will send the letter, which a copy has been given to the city solicitor's office, and we request that they give us an opinion on the letter, and we'll take up that opinion, that request, whenever the city solicitor's office gets back to us in a timely manner.
I will refer it to them as quickly as possible and hope that by the 19th of March, you'll have your own copies of this, as well as a response from them on your options for action regarding it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Is it advisable to wait until we get an opinion from the city solicitor on that before
I
we
think
make
so.
any further comments?
Yeah, I mean, I think that way we have a chance to look at the letter a little more, digest it. I know, since I just seen it for the first time tonight, I think it'll give us a chance to look back at what happened that night and digest what the letter says, and see if there are any discrepancies in the letter and what we have. And then if we have any questions, we can refer them to the city solicitor's office and then get an opinion from them. And then, if need be, if we want, we can have the city solicitor be here that night to answer any questions that we might have.
Okay, fair enough.
I feel that might be the proper way to do it once we have a chance to digest the whole matter. Okay, thank you. Motion was seconded, and, yep, and all in favor? It was yes, and the vote carries 5-0 in favor. I mean, 4 of them, so. I'm saying 5, but Mr. Lockhart's not here, so that carries 4-0. Moving along, we have an A&R report that was put in our packet, which basically told us that approval not required matters that came before the planning and development, and they signed off on these approvals. This is informational purpose for us as board members to know when an approval not required is allowed by the planning and development. We've requested in the past that they keep us updated on the list of these that are approved by right under Mass General laws, and basically at this request, therefore, the board members know what's going on. If any neighbors of theirs ask any questions, what's going on in the neighborhood, at least we have some answers for some of the plans, and we have an idea what's going on when we see development in some of the neighborhoods that when we're out doing our visits. So this is basically just a informational tool from us given to us by planning and development. Moving along, we also have the notices from abutting town. All the abutting towns, when they have their hearings, they send us a copy of their correspondences. So if we have any concerns, we can send them along to their cities and towns with our concerns. Anybody have any questions on the notices that we received tonight from the surrounding towns?
I have none.
Okay. Entertain a motion to place them on file.
Motion to place on file?
Okay.
Second?
Moved. Okay, motion made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes yes. Vote carries 4-0. Next matter is general correspondences. George, I know we had one letter in here in regards to curb cuts, and it talked about the CMRs, and I think it was just informational, and then I signed off on it. Then it said basically that there was, that we could look at the CMRs and the attached memorandum. I don't know, that wasn't given to all of us, I don't think, but, or we can just look them up.
Yeah, this was provided to, the letter was written to city and town building commissioners, zoning boards, planning boards, and DPW directors regarding making sure that curb cut and sidewalk construction, when it's done in and around projects that are approved, are consistent with the standards of the Architectural Access Board, which is basically the American for Disabilities Act and the state equivalent. The CMRs would be the pieces in the Code of Massachusetts regulation regarding access for handicap accessibility. In general, there was concern, I guess, on the state level that a lot of communities are not doing a very good job of covering this. I think we already do a very good job of covering this on projects that are before the boards, because projects before the planning board are reviewed by the city engineer's
Right.
office, and the city engineer has a very solid understanding of these regulations and making sure they're consistent. Where we are continuing to work with the building commissioner and others is areas where there are projects that are below the threshold of the board, or projects most specifically which are below the threshold of a building permit, where somebody goes in, paves a driveway, and in the process of that regrades a sidewalk connection or drops something where a curb wasn't before, and suddenly we have something that's inconsistent with the regulation. Those still are an item of concern, but as we will continue to do the process of having projects reviewed by the city engineer's office before they reach this board, I think you should consider to feel comfortable that an approval, a project that comes reviewed by the city engineer's office without a comment that it is inconsistent with these regulations probably is consistent with these regulations.
Okay.
That said, just as you may be aware, Steve Curran, the current city engineer, did retire on the 31st of January, and they're currently seeking a replacement for him. His office is still reviewing these, but we will have a new city engineer doing those reviews in the near future. And I will make sure also that he is aware of this
Okay.
state-level concern as he does those reviews.
Right. Thank you. Any board members have any questions in regards to the notice there for the curb cuts? I know, like you say, a lot of times they come before us. We've had plenty of time, comments in the past by the city engineer to try to reduce the number of curb cuts. I know we've done that on a lot of sites.
Certainly, part of the regulation is that you cannot have a number of multiple curb cuts on the same lot, which actually is consistent with the zoning changes that we made a few years back to try to reduce those multiple driveways, reduce the curb cuts, the number, the widths of them, et cetera. So, yeah, that is it's consistent with these goals, and it's a good urban design goal as well. So we've all been working on that over the past few years pretty successfully, I think. So.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from board members in regards to that matter? Hearing none, we'll move along. General correspondences. Any of the board members have any correspondences they want to bring to other board members' attention to bring us up to date?
I do have one item I'd like to bring to the board's attention if you have a moment.
Sure.
And it comes first with an apology. As you may be aware, I've been in the process of working through with the planning staff a series of what I've referred to as the phase 2 of zoning changes that we brought last spring. Those were originally to be prepared before the council in the late fall, and then we said January when we were working at updating and improving them. In the end of January, we finally had a package together where the first round was ready to go to the council zoning subcommittee, and a second round would be ready to go soon afterwards. I had some contact with the chair of the zoning subcommittee, Councilor Broderick, about setting up a meeting. It appears that the clerk's office set the meeting up, and somewhere in the process between that happening, all of the notices of that meeting never reached DPD. So we found out Tuesday morning, 8 hours before a meeting was being held, that the zoning subcommittee was meeting last Tuesday. That is the reason why we held that meeting without you being aware of it. And what happened at that meeting is we had 11 small procedural items, 9 of which we were able to go through with the subcommittee and have their comfort level at packaging into an ordinance, which the law department is working on now and which should be ready by Friday. The more substantive items, we decided to push to a future meeting when we had more of a chance to tell people about it and prepare. We have managed to get them to schedule that meeting on March 13th at 5:30 here in the council chambers. That is a public meeting open to the public where we will be discussing through some more substantive changes to zoning in relation to some issues like neighborhood business districts that have come up in some of the regional neighborhood plans, some organization in the table of uses, some issues with what to do with the neighborhood character special permit and some design level review that might make sense related to that. We're going to put together some proposals and discussions. My suggestion, we probably won't get through all of it. There's other issues like the Waterview District in Pawtucketville that probably will go to a future meeting, and my expectation at this point is we'll be scheduling every few weeks the zoning subcommittee to go through the rest of this package. So I wanted to inform you of what happened with last week's meeting, assure you that when the law department ordinance comes out on Friday, we will be forwarding a copy to you. Okay. You will see that as soon as it gets referred to you as well for public hearing, but to have an opportunity to participate before the public hearing process in the crafting of these ordinances going forward, I want to continue to make you aware of when these meetings are held as they are scheduled. And my hope is that at each subcommittee meeting, we'll be able to schedule the next one. The subcommittee seems very interested in doing that to keep the momentum going so that we'll be able to continue to report back to you more immediately when those subcommittee meetings are scheduled. So the next one will be the 13th of March at 5:30, and I should have some information to you
So
before.
what's that, a Tuesday night before the council meeting?
It's Tuesday night before
Okay.
the council meeting, right?
I
so
know
it'll be
just
about an
recently
hour.
they started filming the subcommittee meetings.
And they did not do the last one.
I know some of them they have, I've seen them.
But my expectation is they are attempting to film as many of the subcommittee meetings as they can, which is why they're scheduling them in here.
I got you.
So my expectation is it will be here. We were here last week, and it didn't get taped. I guess the ending of it got taped as the start of the regular meeting got taped, but the full meeting did not. But that was very much a procedural meeting, and most of what we were discussing through there are little wording issues in home occupations, signs for ballparks, things that have been frustrating in one way or another that have just needed some cleaning up. The more substantive discussion will be starting at the next meeting. So I'm doing my best to extend invitations to as many people as possible, the neighborhood groups that have been looking at their master plan goals coming through, as well as the planning board and zoning board members that want to be a part of that. And then, obviously, you will see them again through the public hearing process as they come through to have further opportunity to comment.
So to follow up on that, that'd be a week from tomorrow night at 5:30.
A week from tomorrow night
Okay.
at 5:30 here in the council chambers, March 13th.
For the zoning
Yes.
subcommittee meeting.
Zoning subcommittee. And I guess at that point also probably, if it works as scheduled, an ordinance will be ready that the full council on the 13th will refer to you. You will probably see sometime around the beginning of April, which involves recommendations on the smaller pieces. So we're going to break this into two ordinances. The 9 things that went forward last week will be one ordinance. The larger items, which we'll discuss in the next couple of meetings, will be a second ordinance. And if it drags out too long, we can break it into more smaller pieces to get things approved and on the books. In particular, there's a few things. One in particular is the regulation about doing advertising signs around ballparks that we'd like to have in place before the start of baseball season. So we're trying to move some of these along and make sure that, they're just small issues that have been hanging around for a while that we'd like to get through.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Proick, is it possible for you to provide some type of a list of the items that are up for discussion at that meeting to us?
Yes, my hope is our staff is meeting Thursday to try to pull together the things that we hope to have ready for that day. So I'm hoping that by Friday I will be able to provide you with two things, both the list of what will be discussed on the 13th and going forward. You'll probably see 3 or 4 of the items ready to go on the 13th, as well as a number of others that will follow soon afterwards that aren't ready yet, but I'll at least list what they're going to be, as well as the ordinance for those first 9 items that should be ready to go to council and then be referred to you.
Even if you can email a list
Yeah,
ahead of the meeting, that would be helpful.
should be able to do that.
Except for the chairman doesn't have his email running.
He does now.
I gave him
so-
one tonight, which hopefully is working out, because we had a problem in the department where we can get the inter-department emails, but we couldn't get outside the building because they changed the computer system. But I gave him the new one that we have, and hopefully I'll be getting it. Hopefully it works now.
Right, I will, as those things become available, I will email them to each of you, so you all have them.
Any other correspondence? The only one, the other one I have, which is in our packet, I called Mr. Erickson last week and let him know that when I was looking over the agenda, that he had it scheduled for April 15th, and I let him know that that was, April 16th. I let him know that was Patriots Day, and I thought that maybe we can make a change now, so if any of the board members were aware of that, and so maybe that being a holiday, he didn't have it marked as a holiday when he scheduled it back last year. It came to my attention, so I passed it on to him, so that's why we put a new schedule in here, just for the board members for their consideration. So on that April date, hopefully we'll do it that following Thursday, which is the 19th, because we had the 16th, which City Hall was closed that day. So that was just an update that I asked James to put in the packet, so be aware of that, because that happens to, it seems that our third Mondays are the ones that have a tendency to, our first and third Monday, we have built in more Monday holidays throughout the year than any other Mondays. If there's no other general correspondence, we'll move along to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Oh, actually, we have one of the correspondence in here, which is a news archive, which is talking about neighborly house study fines. I think it's basically self-explanatory, which we had a copy of, talking about different states, how they do different types of planning in regards to locations of properties and homes.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think James included that in your packet because one of the interesting outcomes of that is that some of the strategies that the board has been taking in the traditional districts about trying to make the units more connected to the existing neighborhoods, whether those neighborhoods are in strong shape or still kind of pulling themselves together, that it tends to be that those hold their value and have their value longer. It reaffirms some of the goals that we've been that you've been reinforcing through the site plan and special permit review process for a while. So that's why we thought it was an interesting element to suggest that it's not only in the best interest of the planning board and good planning, but also in the best interest of developers to be creating projects in urban neighborhoods that connect more and interact more with their neighborhood rather than turning inward and trying to sort of hide themselves from their neighboring projects.
Thank you. Moving on, if we have no other correspondences, we have the Zoning Board of Appeals legal notices. These are the Zoning Board of Appeal matters that are scheduled for March 12th, 2007 for public hearings at 6:30 p.m. here in the City Council chambers. These matters come before us as a recommendation only. We make a recommendation on these matters, and that recommendation is sent to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Then they have a public hearing on those matters, and after all the input, they make their final determination. The first matter on the agenda is for a special permit. The applicant is Viewpoint Signs at Northeast Endoscopy, which is at 790 Chelmsford Street, also known as 59 Composite Way, which is a commercial high-rise. The petition is for internal illumination of an existing wall/entrance sign for Northeast Endoscopy. There's a copy of the sign in the packet. I don't know if the board members have any questions on it. Just see if they're going to be putting that sign up there right over the entrance coming in. Any board members have any questions in regards to the sign?
I have a question, maybe just a comment too. It looks from the application that this was approved for a non-illuminated sign that they proposed to be illuminated. And as I look at the permit that was granted, it appears to be install 123 by 200 wall sign at 790 Chelmsford Street. And that's a fairly recent permit that was granted January of 2007. I don't know a lot about illuminated signs. I know we used to have a sign person that reviewed these matters and made a recommendation as to whether they were appropriate or not for the site in question. I think generally they're kind of looked at with disfavor, the internally illuminated signs, if they can be illuminated in another manner. I don't have any real strong feelings one way or the other, but I'm just curious as to what your thoughts may be. We seem to get a lot of these proposals for illuminated signs, and I'd feel more comfortable if they were looked at by somebody from the city to determine whether the particular site is appropriate for an illuminated sign of 200 feet. You know, it seems kind of big to me.
Sure. Mr. Perkins, go ahead, please.
Diane Trad from our office does regularly comment on the zoning board signs. The timing challenge I have is that when she sends something before the date of your meeting, I try to get it to planning board before. Often that doesn't happen, and it reaches the zoning board sometime between now and the 12th, so that her comment would be in there, but I do try to see if we can get them to you as early as possible. So, that didn't happen this time. One thing I will say, I can see the concern about the size and the scope of the sign. We are also in the midst of our zoning subcommittee meeting last week. The discussion came up about taking a closer look at the sign code. We're going to try to get through the other pieces of the zoning issues that we have on our agenda before we do that. There are a lot of applications for internally illuminated signs. There are also a number of concerns about applications now coming out for some of the flashing LED light message signs that are appearing everywhere. Both do require ZBA special permit wherever they're done. And I do know that one advantage of a sign like this to some of the other internally illuminated signs, I'm sure this is something that Diane would comment on, is that what essentially is illuminated in a sign like this are the individual letters, while the background is a dark opaque color that's not, which is something that I do know she generally prefers to signs that have a white background where the entire white background is illuminated, because this is a lot subtler of an illumination. I can't really comment. It is a very large sign, and I'm not sure how she would react to that. And she's much more the expert on this than I am, but I do understand those concerns.
Well, I would just recommend in a case like this that they, that they get the opinion from Diane Trad or whoever's going to be looking at it on behalf of the city with the site in question to make a recommendation to the Board of Appeals.
Any other board members? Questions or concerns?
No, I agree with Mr. Claremont.
Okay.
That I think maybe it would be best if we took no action on this and, suggested that we have the sign expert take a closer look and provide advice.
So if we made to refer it to the Diane Trad to have her comments be given to the zoning board of appeals, that'd be appropriate?
Yep.
Okay. I mean, that way we should have time to be able to respond on that, because I think what the board members are looking for is feedback from, obviously from Division of Planning and Development and Ms. Trad, who's involved in the sign part. Obviously, if we had the recommendation tonight, it would make it easier to make a decision. I know a lot of times in the past, we have referred that matter to her to send her recommendation on to the zoning board of appeals.
Sure.
Okay. Joe, is that basically what we can encompass as your motion? Mm-hmm. Okay. All board members in favor of that motion, that we have it, Ms. Diane Trad make a recommendation and forward that to the zoning board of appeals?
Right.
Okay. Thank you. So that matter will be referred to Division of Planning and Development, sign review planner, and sent to the zoning board of appeals. The next matter is a variance, which is on Los Carrillos Restaurant LLC at 408 Suffolk Street, also known as 416-418 Suffolk Street. This is a urban mixed use. Petition is to allow in a restaurant without the required parking. And this matter is on Suffolk Street. And we have a copy of the plan.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'm not sure, I haven't looked at this, so I don't know exactly what they're working with here in terms of the size of the restaurant and the project and everything else. One of the issues that we discussed before the subcommittee on Tuesday night is that when we passed our restaurant regulations a while ago, the requirement for restaurant parking is about 9 times the requirement for a typical retail use. The recommendation that we made to the zoning subcommittee and that they suggested we put in the ordinance would adjust that requirement so that it would only be for some small takeout restaurants, it would only be 3 times that of a regular retail use. Certainly a restaurant generates more parking requirements than a retail use, but a sit-down restaurant generates parking for cars that sit there for hours on end, while a takeout restaurant has a turnover closer to a regular retail use. Now, I don't know if this case is a case similar to that. I haven't even looked at it, but the reason for that change is because a number of restaurants have needed to seek approvals and variances from the zoning board in cases where their parking impacts probably are not that greater than other retail uses. And this may be a case like that, where a change like that may help pursue it. Or this may be a case where they have no parking at all, and it's, I don't know, I haven't looked at it, but
I think by looking at the plan, I don't think they have any parking.
That's all on
it
the
is
street.
Yeah.
something to keep in mind.
I think they have the location, one of the comments that they have on their application is allowance of relief of parking requirements for restaurant use. They go on to say the location has no public areas within 1,500 feet and previously was a CAF that relied exclusively on on-street parking with no detriment to the public good. Approval for this variant would not nullify or substantially derogate the intent of the zoning ordinance. I think if I look at the plan, they have no off-street parking, and it would be all on-street parking.
But I'm familiar with this area. It's always been this way. I mean, the convenience stores there, the barber shops here now used to be here. There was always a little cafe there, and there's businesses all around this area. It was always on-street parking. They never had any off-street parking. What I don't know from this, I'm not even sure where this restaurant is, whether it's one of these units or these 3 together, or how many seats are there, or what's involved. I mean, I don't know if they're seating 6 people or 60. So
Yeah, I agree. If I look at the plan, you don't know how many, what the seating capacity on the inside is.
Right.
I mean, I know the area well, I believe, know what building it is, but what they're trying to put in there for how many occupants makes it difficult. I mean, obviously, the decision is how many people you can have in there on a popular night makes a difference of how many parking spots you're gonna need. I mean, and I think that, they allude to if it's the small area, you're not gonna have that much people coming and going if it's, but I don't believe this is for, food to go. I think basically, it sounds to me like the application is for sit-down restaurant. And it's right there off Suffolk Street, Suffolk Street right off Market Street. I know a lot of businesses up there don't have the parking, but the big question would be, how many patrons they're gonna be trying to be servicing to have no parking. I think if we knew what the capacity of the restaurant would be, what they intended to be, or what the seating capacity is, I should phrase it, then I think it would make our decision a little easier, knowing that. But without that, it makes it a little more difficult for us to render a decision on this. At least that's my look at the matter. Any other board members have any questions or concerns?
Yeah, just the same ones, Mr. Chairman. I also am familiar with the area. Took a drive down there just this afternoon, actually, and it's a very crowded street, with some other businesses there. And in the absence of that information, knowing how big the capacity is going to be at the restaurant, it's very difficult for us, certainly difficult for us to make a favorable recommendation on this. It's a long walk from any parking garage either. So, I would almost be inclined to say that I would support a recommendation to deny and then let the ZBA use their own judgment based on the feedback they get from the applicant. Sure. So based on that, I'll make a motion that we recommend denial of this application.
So, just so on the wording of your motion will be recommend denial, main reason being we don't know what the seating capacity would be. Probably that information will be very helpful to us. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Anyone want to second that motion?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes yes, so the motion carries that we recommend denial at this time, due to the fact that we don't have the information on what the seating capacity would this be, so therefore we have no way of knowing how much off-street parking that would involve and how it would affect the neighborhood. Thank you. Moving along, the next matter we have is a variance. The applicant is Richard Guthrie. The location is 1110 Burnside Street. This is a traditional single-family zone. The petition to construct a single-family that exceeds the maximum allowed front yard setback on an undersized lot with insufficient frontage at 110 Burnside Street, and to maintain existing single-family at 105 Sale Street on an undersized lot. So what they're requesting us to do is give them an illegal lot on Burnside, and let them maintain an illegal lot on Sale Street, and then give them a couple of variances on top.
Mr. Chairman, this comes back to issue I have consistently here is this petition is basically creating their own hardship and then asking for relief through a variance. Taking a ride and looking at that today, matter of fact, if I had the right spot, it looks like potentially there's a house right next door that would probably be looking to do the same thing. We had the fenced-in yard, and I just think that this is the type of infill development that really starts to really create that dense development within the neighborhood. And once again, you're looking for a variance for the new lot, and also you've got a nonconformity with the existing lot. So, for my opinion, I would be in favor of denying this petition.
Okay. Any other board discussion?
Yeah, I would agree. It looks like they have back-to-back lots. They're 5,000 square feet each, and, they're really sort of merged now by operation of law to a 10,000 square foot lot, even though the city is holding them separately. To split them or to allow that to be built on would be building on a 5,000 square foot lot and leave the other one non-conforming also at 5,000 feet. So I agree, and I'd also recommend denial.
Basically, I agree. I know if you look at the plan's dated back in '98, I think the plan, in my opinion, is a poor plan to begin with. And my comments are, you're requesting us to give you relief to have 2 illegal lots that are both 5,000 square feet. So, I'd be against this as well. I'm sorry, which member made the motion? I think it was Mr. Fischett made the motion that we deny it. All in favor? I think, no, excuse me, I need a second.
I'll second.
Mr. Claremont seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Chair votes yes in denial, so recommendation carries 4-0 in denial. The next matter we have is a variance. The applicant is Darren McDonald. The property is located at 25 Norcross Street. It is a traditional single-family zone. Petition to maintain an existing addition with insufficient side yard. What happened was, he built the addition, and then he got caught. He didn't ask for a permit, he went ahead and built the addition. In his application, he says, I want to finish my addition. He never asked for it, never came before the board, never asked for relief, put the addition up, found out it's illegal, now he's coming in and asking for relief. So he didn't come in and ask for relief like he should have done to begin with, and he didn't come down and get the building permit. Therefore, if he did, they wouldn't have given it to him, knowing that he didn't have the side yard. So what he did is, he put the addition on, and somehow he got caught, and now he's asking if we will forgive him. My opinion is no, but I don't know what the other board members feel. I think he should go through the same proper procedure as everybody else. If not, everybody else is going to start saying, let's put him up, and then just go and ask for forgiveness later, and see what happens. I think we're setting a precedent if we start letting people come in after the fact. I mean, it looks like he's off 6.8 feet and 7.3. I think if he came through the channels the right way, it wouldn't have been too much off. He would have needed a total of 25, minimum of 10. So basically, he'd be looking, for only a couple of feet, because he has 12 on one side. On the other side, it's the smallest he has is 6.8 from the neighbor lot line. But in my opinion, he should come before the board and ask for it first, and like everybody else we're required to do in the city. What the other board members' concerns are, but those are my concerns. Anybody else have anything to say, or if not, I'll make a motion that we deny.
No, I'll just chime in. It looks like if he'd have come in earlier, there might have been something that might have been done, might have been able to be done to put the addition up, because, the back of his property has got a deck that probably encroaches as well. Maybe something could have been done on that side that would have been less intrusive, but now he's well off the mark in terms of what he needs to be from the setback requirements. So I agree with you, and I'll make the motion to deny.
Okay.
Recommend
The
denial.
motion. So I agree that it's too bad that they didn't follow the proper procedure here, because I do think it's a relatively harmless addition. There's plenty of room. They're too close to the lot line, but there is a fair gap between the house next door and the lot line. It's a small breezeway. I imagine they just added on to their existing entrance. Looks like it's well done, and leaves some space to get around to the backyard. So I think that personally, I thought it looked good, and I thought it was pretty well done, and I thought it was pretty harmless. But I will support the chair's concerns of not wanting to set a precedent and then having people build things like this and then come in after the fact asking for forgiveness. It's probably not a good thing.
I even noticed that in the packet, we received a letter from one of the neighbors, I'm not sure if it's an abutter or not, that had no objection to that. And I know usually one of our concerns is always, who the abutters in the neighborhood. The people come out in favor and say, they came to me, they spoke with me, they want to put the addition in, I'm the abutter, it's going to affect me more than anybody else. I don't have any problem with, giving that relief for 2 feet. I know in the past, most of the board members are very well to go along with that, because they know any construction like that, it affects the neighbor. And if the neighbor's happy, they're the ones who have to live near them. Doesn't affect us per se, but if people in the neighborhood have no problem with it, I think it goes into the quality of life in the neighborhood, and we'd always try to make that a big issue for all the neighborhood. And if people come forward and say, we have no objection, they came to us, they asked us, we're here in favor of it, I know we always give that a lot of thought and a lot of consideration when we make a recommendation on these matters, or when we vote on any project that comes before us. We always welcome the neighborhood input. And I think, like I said, if they did this properly to begin with, I think you'd have a much better chance of getting a favor recommendation from this board, at least in my opinion, and what we've seen in the past. And that's the only reason why I'm basically against it. I think if he came in like he was supposed to do to begin with, you just don't start building something either. You have to get a building permit. Then if you did that, the building department told him, you have to come in before the planning board. So just to say, well, I'm gonna build it, if he hired somebody, that person would know. If he starts doing it himself, and he has no experience in it, then he shouldn't be doing it himself, for the reasons.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but this probably would not even have come before the planning board. I would assume that this would be a zoning board
Right.
matter. That we'd never have seen this matter if they hadn't have gone to the,
Yeah,
kind of done the end around on the process and built.
Well,
it
if he
before.
applied for a permit and needed a variance, then we'd get it much the same way that we're getting it now.
Sure, we would get
Right.
requests for.
But if it was just a standard building permit, no, we'd never see it.
Right, right.
But typically, yeah, you are correct. You would have seen this before it started in a ZBA packet for comment rather than after. And often you will see something like this with a setback violation where you have letters from neighbors, in this case, the letters from the neighbor on the side in which he's going, that they'll say they're comfortable with it, and the zoning board seriously considers those sort of concerns, even as it tries to address whether or not the strict hardship standards apply. What is frustrating, and just remains a lesson for people, is that building additions, particularly building noticeable additions on the side of your house without a building permit, is not something that isn't going to go unnoticed by an inspector driving by or somebody asking a question about it. And then when you go out and realize that I mean, this house was actually just barely compliant in side yard setbacks before it was built, and it is a perfectly reasonable thing to ask and say, you know, I'm on a tough-sized lot with a tough-sized situation, and you want a mudroom, and you want to add on to come before the zoning board for a variance and get your neighbors in favor of it. It's a lot tougher situation when you're coming in and asking forgiveness after the thing is mostly finished.
I mean, because, you know, everybody started doing that, it would make things a lot more difficult. I know people who've asked me before, what if someone puts it up and they say, okay, I already got up there, what are you gonna do about it? My response is tear it down. If you did it illegal to begin with, like anything else that you do illegal, you have to suffer the consequences. Very simple. You picked and choose that you want to do this. We say that in the court system around town. You picked and made this decision. It was a poor decision. Now, the consequences are yours. I mean, it's not like it was an accident. I did this by mistake. I think they have to know what they're doing. Like I said, if he was building it himself, then he wasn't qualified to know that he didn't have the building permit. Or if he hired someone, the person he hired, who was, if they were experienced, would know they had to get the building permit. So they neglected to bypass the system completely. So, I mean, those are basically my concerns. Like I said, they come in the first time without it built, I think we look at it completely different. That's, you know, my concerns. That's why I'm going to vote in favor with all the other board members that we recommend the denial. So everybody, on that matter, vote carries 4-0 for denial. I believe that ends the other business to zoning board of appeals. Next on the agenda, do we have any other further comments from planning board members? Hearing none, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Motion made and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes yes. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody. Good night.